Good afternoon. I'm glad everyone ate, because now you can focus on me. Where do I start? Being a student has changed my life. So how I became a student was throughout one of my speaking engagements, Esperanza College actually created a scholarship just to fit the person that I was. And being a student has actually, I believe, made me a better advocate. Because before, when I would go and speak to people, I would talk to them about just my story and how devastated I was and how people really wouldn't listen to me. But going to a faith-based school and having to study other people who have been incredible, life-changing, influential people, I've learned to sort of incorporate things that I've learned from them into my own life. And the reason why I'm saying all of this is because in school, one of my final projects was, I was researching Desmond Tutu. And in his readings, he said a phrase that was wounded healers. And I looked at that, and before taking under account what he defined as a wounded healer, I said, you know what, maybe that's me. And if I believe I'm a wounded healer, then I know I can find other wounded healers in this fight against hunger. I think that me reading that gave me a little more passion for what it is that I'm doing. I've been discouraged a lot speaking about the movie and meeting people who actually aren't as receptive to the situation. But reading something like that made me think that it is very important for people such as myself who have gone through the struggle to become those people who are talking about it and who are fighting to make the change, because what better way to heal someone that has been wounded than by someone who's wounded themselves? I think that in order to attack hunger the way it's attacked us is to continue doing what Bread for the World is doing as far as the offering of letters, but to also branch out and find more people who are like me. And for that reason, I'm starting right now it's just a small group in my school who are people who are interested in fighting hunger. And since I've been to school, I haven't really done as much as I used to as far as speaking to legislators and things of that nature. But I thought if I go to school and I bring people who are in the same community as I am, going through the same struggle, and sort of make this force field and have this support system from the school, and then go to our state representatives and our community leaders and let them know exactly how important all of this is, then it's something that can't fail. Since the movie, my life has changed a lot, and as I said, a lot of good things have come from it. But sometimes I feel like it's gotten harder emotionally, because my children, to them I'm just mom. So they don't know that, fighting hunger is important. They don't know that what mommy does is something that is trying to better society. They just know that mommy's away. So I was faced with the question of, am I doing the right thing? I'm spending time away from my children, traveling the country and speaking to people and letting them know these hardships that my family is going through. And I think that in doing so, I've learned that, even though it is a hard decision to make, it's something that has to be done. And My children, they've seen the movie, and as I was speaking to a few people earlier, they think that they're superstars. They think that they go to school and they tell their little friends, we were in a movie and you weren't in a movie. But they don't really know what the movie is about. I've spoken to them and I've asked them, well, what do you think about A Place at the Table and things of that nature? And what do you think about what mommy does? What does mommy do? And my daughter, being as though she's older, that's her. They're 8 and 6 now. This picture is it's about a year old now. She says, well, you feed poor people. That's what my mom does. She feeds poor people. And she doesn't really think that we are a part of those poor people that people say. And so I'm starting now to think more so about whether or not I should start bringing them with me. So they can not only see what I'm saying, but most importantly, see how people react to it. Because I want to build them up to sort of be able to sustain the negative things that people are going to say, but to also learn how to stand up for themselves. And it's crazy because as the film, as we were being filmed, so many things physically have changed about us. I think the next picture is all of us together. But the film has brought us together more, but I feel like there are certain things that, I guess as their mother, I noticed. This picture was taken right after we saw the film. And it's something, I picked this picture specifically to show you guys because their eyes, to someone who's just looking at this picture for the first time, it'll look like an error. It'll look like, it's just red eye or something like that. But my children started crying when we were taking this picture. And I didn't know if they were crying because they were happy, they were sad, they were, it was just one of the first signs that I noticed that, things are kind of changing. We came from this. This is a wall in the house that I lived in when we started being filmed. And just seeing this and, remembering when it would be time to eat and I would have to tell the kids, like, you have to walk around the wall and don't get close to it and don't touch it and make sure that, you don't put your hands in there and things of that nature. It's something that has so many different aspects that come along with just that wall. Looking back at it now, it makes me think, like, do they think that's normal? Do they think that the amount of food that we were eating is normal? Did they think that them eating and mommy hiding off in another room because she wasn't eating as much is normal? Are these patterns that, as they get older, they're gonna follow? Right now, I took my children to the doctor last week, ironically, and my daughter is 8 years old and she's 111 pounds. I was 111 pounds when I was 16 years old. And this brings about so many questions as far as, has the decisions that I've made as far as what to give them when I didn't have affected my daughter. And even harder than that, how do I know when to tell my daughter no? After going through something like this, after there being nights where they didn't have anything at all, as a mother, how do I know the difference of making my child obese and feel like I'm neglecting food from her because I don't want her to gain that much weight? How do I know when she's hungry because she's really hungry, or is she just saying it because she saw the film and she feels different? And plenty of times I feel like, you know what, I didn't have that formal upbringing. I didn't have a mother and father in the picture. I didn't have, even though my mother lived with us, I really didn't have her there. She was physically there, but that was about it. So how can I change that? How can I make my daughter healthier? How can I make sure that I'm not making any bad decisions as far as how much to give her? Because honestly, going through a situation like this where your life is documented, in the beginning I felt like my kids need to gain weight. They need to be able to be looked at and say, things have changed. Oh, look, they're not as skinny as they were in those pictures. I felt like I had to prove myself to society to show weight meant success. In the hunger world, them gaining weight showed that I was a good mom. And that was just my main focus in the beginning. I had to show people, I had to give people something to look at to know that things were different. And because of that, you know, my daughter at 8 years old could be facing diabetes. So I feel like every time I go to speak, there's something different about my life. There's something that I'm battling. There's something that I need to learn. There's something that I feel lost about. And I think that Bread for the World, being the organization that I work with the most, has taught me that these things are very, very, very important. That eating healthy is something like, even after the film, when I saw it for the first time, I thought about, you know what, exactly, now that my life has changed a little bit, what can I do differently that I wasn't doing then that I can do now? And I started incorporating fruits and vegetables into their diet, but it wasn't as much as I could have been doing. Because as I said, I was so focused on just giving people something they can look at that even 4 years after the film, I'm still questioning, did I make the right choice? And I think that if we as people who are interested in fighting against hunger, the champions, the people who just have been touched by the film, I think that if we start talking about the problem on a one-on-one, more personal level, if people are more open to sharing their stories or meeting people who have gone through the struggle, that we can actually put a stop to this. People who are on the Hill can listen to these experts, give them numbers, and even share a few stories about people who they know, but they don't really feel what they're saying. And I think that as individuals, if we start doing that ourselves, just noticing the little warning signs and reaching out to these people who need help, that we can build our own little army, that once it's put together, we become a threat and we become something that can't be ignored. I always encourage people to use the film. I included this last picture because Jon Stewart didn't know my name. And just the fact that when they were on the show and that they spoke about my story, it was something that was so incredible to me. I didn't see it when it came out. I actually, someone on Facebook just posted the link on something that I posted, and I went and I watched it, and I was so surprised and I was so amazed that not only are people reaching out to me that don't know me, they're looking for me, they're trying to talk to me, but that I felt like the film is finally getting the notoriety that it needs to engage people to want to do something and to feel like they can do something. Because that was one of the things that stopped me from doing anything as far as going to the Hill and speaking to legislators. I thought that they didn't care about me. So what was the point in trying? Why should I, go up there and tell them my story when they'll probably just laugh at me behind my back when I leave? And then I started seeing changes. I saw changes to the WIC program. I saw changes to the SNAP program in the beginning before all of the budget cuts. And I noticed that, you know what, this is working. And I think that people get discouraged in the fight, and that's probably one of the biggest problems. But I don't know, I always tell people that if you know someone that you feel can benefit from speaking to me or sharing their story with me, just so they can feel like they're not alone, I always encourage people to do so. And it's because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to feel like nobody was listening and that things aren't, what I had to say wasn't important. And this isn't to make myself feel any better about myself, but as I said, I think one of the most important things is to find people like me, people who are living through the struggle, who are willing to tell people that this is unacceptable. We already have so many people who are, as I said, champions and leaders in this fight, and I think that the disconnect just comes into bringing them together. And I think that if we want to end hunger, that's one of the most important things to do, that we not only want to build a family, but we need to build a community.